What's up, everybody? Welcome to more Magnificent 21. Thanks for the raid, Tosh. I appreciate it, man. And all you Tosh fans out there, we're going to start off the night with some back-to-back Tosh action, so should be pretty good. How's it going, everybody? I am doing well. I think I've got everything squared away on my end. We're pretty much like close enough to 6 o'clock to start, I think, so... Oh wait, I didn't put in the bands for the week. We are still on week 2. So it's moles and barbed wire. There we go. There we go. Now we're looking fresh. Alright, so we're going to start things off with Tosh versus Horus the Holy. And... Tosh is favored in this matchup, so Horus is starting out with a 2-0 lead. He just needs to take one map. Let's see if old Witty Pun 7 can win 3 in a row. Let's get into it. Spying in the bottom right, we've got Tosh and his opponent to the top left, Horus. Alright, Badger versus Owl matchup here. Both players rocking those snakes. Seems to make a lot of sense, since they are especially good at Tier 3 and most Tier 2 as well. Tosh rocking the Squizzard here, which is really cool, but also wants the Pigeons, of course, to synergize with these Skunks and Badgers. So, you know, that's kind of a lot of the composition of his deck. So really, like, the flex picks here for Tosh, I feel like, were the Lizards and Snakes. And meanwhile, Horus does have Toads, and Toads do perform quite nicely against Lizards, of course, but not as much as they used to, I feel like. I feel like you can still kind of make things happen with Lizards against Toads. Toads seem to be very good nowadays at just bursting through, kind of like a budget mole, or also dealing with chameleons. And no chameleons here this round for Tosh, so... Still though, man, I mean, Toads can get some really good connections. You know, I was playing against James earlier this week. He was running a lot of Toads, and, you know, the Toads could come in and just wipe out your squirrels completely if you're not very careful. So, 8-farm double here from Tosh. Quick expansion from Horus, and, you know, this like, 8-farm mill is not safe in the current meta because it can get punished by moles, but there's no moles this week, so I really like seeing people kind of flex into that opening build order. You know, maybe Tosh, I mean, he's got the Lizards, maybe you can try to do something to punish that, but the Lizard harassment is more well suited, you know, probably coming over here on the flank to get some of that back bacon there. Tosh gonna grab this hidden expansion over in the 3 o'clock and make his way downtown. See if he can get something done. Horus is not in position. He's trying to do his due diligence here with the scouting. And this is going to be a quick, easy couple pigs here for Tosh. Very nice. Now, this does leave Tosh a little bit exposed. He lost a few Lizards there, but 9 times out of 10, especially on bigger maps like this, that doesn't really matter. You know, this counterattack from Horus, you know, if he comes in right here, right now, like he is, you know, maybe you can get something done. And it looks like Tosh was doing something else at home and, like, desperately sold off a lot of things and threw down some Tier 1 Warrens, but Horus is pulling back, so, you know, Tosh is not going to get punished here. He comes in again, snipes another pig. Horus did manage to sell it, but barely got any food back, and Tosh is kind of backed into a corner, but this is only 6 Lizards. So ideally, Horus picks this off without losing any Toads, but his commander goes down. Yeah, and trading those in for Toads... although I don't think that was super intentional, but, you know, that's kind of the best rate at that point you can get with those Lizards, right? You're just kind of guaranteeing some trades there. So far, things are looking good for the favored player here. He's gotten a lot of harassment done, but now Horus is moving in for a counterattack. You know, Tosh has a pretty equal amount of Tier 1 here. He did a pretty good job trying to focus fire down those initial Toads, trying to stop those from getting any connections, and yeah, this defense from Tosh is just too good here, so Horus is gonna have to go back home with his tail between his legs and, you know, kind of make a last stand here. You know, if Tosh wins another big engagement, he's already got so much damage done. This is just too many squirrels here. And I expect to see Horus with the tap here shortly. You know, maybe he sticks around a little bit longer than he normally would since this is a tournament match, but from here, really, Tosh has got this in the bag. You know, he's got this other expansion going. He's got some farms already up and running. And Tosh is just going to take it easy, wait for his skunks to deliver the killing blow. And I do like this decision making. It is kind of rough, you know. I think on paper the better move is to just slam down a bunch of tier 1 Warrens and push in for the win, but I often do what Tosh is doing here. You know, he knows he's super far ahead this game, so he's just gonna go ahead and get more ahead here. You know, wait a minute or two, get those skunks out, keep the farms rolling, and this essentially throws down checkmate, where if he did, you know, build a bunch of tier 1 and just try to finish off his opponent, you know, maybe something goes wrong in that attack. You know, you take a clunky engagement or something like that, and then all of a sudden Horus has got a chance to get back in. Tosh is coming around with the side with only 3 lizards, but 3 lizards is plenty to pick off a pig or 2. I think he wanted 2 there, but with that skunk gas, he's going to have to push back. And another expansion here from Tosh, but not to be an anti-hype guy or anything like that, but this game is definitely over. Tosh should be coming in here to seal the deal with this push. You know, those toads, maybe, you know, toads are kind of a wild card. They can definitely help you take some crazy engagements, but Tosh cleans it up. He keeps his couple skunks alive. He should have plenty of tier 1 reinforcement on the way. These skunks are really low, though, so Tosh not quite ending the game here as he planned, but again, he's just miles ahead in economy now. Even getting that Badger down. Maybe doing a little bit of a showboating here. And while this kind of plays out, I'll just double check everything seems good on my end. I might actually do a quick... Game sound is a little bit loud in my little ears here. So I'll do that, and then I'll just beef it up in OBS. So that should be about the same. So we've got Tosh versus Horus. We've got, coming up right after that, Tosh versus Kalaru. And then we're going to end the night with Melvin versus Jevla. And I believe Boomer is planning to stream after me. But I think that was kind of dependent on if we get more replays submitted. I think there's a couple stragglers who haven't played their week 2 matches just quite yet. And Tosh is just going to come in with the flagship Badger and mow his opponent down in style here. Good resilience from Horus, you know, but Tosh just got really far ahead in the early game. You know, he got some really good harassment, and the counterattack from Horus there just did not do enough. If anything, it made his situation a little bit worse. So Tosh takes a nice clean victory there. We'll throw a point up on the board for a Badger player, and let's get into the next round. Alright, down on the right, fresh off a win, we've got Tosh. And up on the top left, he just needs to sneak 1 map against his opponent. We've got Horus. And this map looks fine for both players. You know, if we get super late, I start to favor this more for Tosh. You know, obviously he's got several more gristmills over here. But a lot of times we see 2 base play, maybe 3 bases, you know, and Horus does have this one. This one's a bit clunky, but one thing I might like to see out of Horus, and it's always rough when you feel like you're up against the ropes a little bit in the matchup, you know, but sometimes doing things like taking this base from Horus is really, really strong, right? Because then he makes it really difficult for Tosh to utilize this front row of bases. What I think the safer play is, and what we'll probably see Horus end up with, is this side base over here. But the long-term problem with that is you know, you take this base, and then Tosh probably takes one of these, and then now taking this as your third becomes very difficult. And if we get to that phase in the game, Horus could always try to take this base over the side, but Tosh does have those lizards again. I love this 8-farm double lizard opening from him, by the way. And we've seen this tier 2 opening a little bit more this week. Again, I think it's a symptom of the banned moles that kind of allows you to do some of these greedier openings, like get a quick chameleon. But I like this. What this is kind of signaling to me from Horus is, hey, I know my opponent's got a lot of lizards. Unfortunately, man, this map does have a short enough rush distance. And since the tier 1 was delayed so long from Horus, you know, his cams aren't quite out yet here, and Tosh is able to come in and get some harassment damage done. He's definitely going to be able to get the second pig. And Horus is already at a rough spot. I think maybe the move is, you know, build like one Toad Warren and really hope these cams can carry you. But cams are not always the best unit on offense. As weird as that sounds. Like, they're great in big open engagements. But sometimes trying to attack in with them can be a little bit difficult. And Tosh here for some more harassment picks off yet another pig. But takes a few lizard losses for it this time around. And what's the move from Horus? Is he going to pull the trigger and move out with these cams? You know, I think that was the plan initially. I think that's why he rushed up to that quick tier 2. But now it's rough because your opponent's got a reasonable advantage on you since they got so much of that damage in. You know, you're not going to be fighting on fair terms anymore. And Horus just wants to delay the game. He wants to get up to a big tier 2 army. Meanwhile, Tosh going for a one base badger. He's got this lizard hit squad. There's 2 cams here, but that is not enough to defend against this many lizards. Yeah, just getting deleted instantly. And this might be another quick victory for Tosh. Yeah, that is simply too much damage. I think Horus overbuilt that tier 2. You know, maybe trying to go for like double tier 2 off one base is possible, but going for the triple like that was pretty greedy. And, you know, he really didn't have any core tier 1 available to defend against this lizard harass. And now, you know, the sky's the limit for Tosh. He's already bought and paid for this badger. Sure, there's a good amount of toads here. But these snakes gonna try to come in and start cleaning that up. Gets 3 stacks of poison on the cams. Is that gonna be enough to kill it? Yes, it is. I wasn't quite sure because I know the poison goes away quicker in your territory, plus the lizard regeneration rate. Some decent toad connects there, but I mean, this is just an economic game now. Yeah, and Horus knows he simply took too much damage from that lizard harass. And, you know, Tosh really punishing Horus there for trying to be greedy on his tech early on in that game. Now we are on match point. You never know, man. I mean, you can sneak a quick win, and I think what Horus was going for, it could have worked. He just took too much damage. Let's see if he can figure it out in game number 3 here. 2-2, and the bottom left, killing it so far tonight. We've got Big Pimpatosh and his opponent to the top right, Horus the Holy. And I think against this kind of lizard play, you know, at this point, Horus has had a couple maps to figure out, all right, Tosh is being, you know, very bold with these lizards. I think he's just got to play it a bit safe, you know. I like the cam pick. I think that was good. But trying to go for it so early was rough. You know, maybe like an 8-farm double squirrel into cam could have worked, or even into double cam, you know, trickling in a little bit more tier 1, you know, and trying to go for a push of like 9 to 12 squirrels, 3 toads, 4 cams. You know, something like that can definitely work, especially if your opponent is doing things like, you know, massing up on pure lizard and trying to go for a one base badger to flex a little bit. But I feel like in this series, we haven't really been given the opportunity to see Horus at his best. You know, both those games he got very crippled early on from lizard harassment, and even from the best players, I mean, that is difficult to come back from. And I like this, you know, Gristmill first into an 8-farm double. That seems fine. That actually puts Horus in the build order lead for the time being. And this time around, Tosh still got the lizards in the pocket here, but he hasn't built any yet. And this map is a little bit misleading, I feel like. You know, part of me wants to think we're going to go into a macro game here. Because it is a relatively large map, but at the same time, I mean, the rush distance isn't that far. You know, from Tosh's base to the second of Horus. But, you know, if Horus can stay alive in the early game and drag this puppy out for a little while, you know, he's got a pretty distinct map advantage, I feel like. He's got, you know, 4 expansions tucked in nice and tight here. Meanwhile, Tosh really only has this natural that's easy. He does have a couple over to the side, though, and unfortunately, Horus has not been scouting too much. Horus is not aware that Tosh is miles ahead on farms. Here he comes in for the scout now. And does barely see that second base, but doesn't quite get the information he needed. And the thing about this is, unless Horus attacks, you know, with a army and does some real damage, like right here, right now, these farms are going to pay for themselves soon, and Tosh is going to be at a nice lead. Now, Horus does pick up the slack a little bit on the farms there. Is going to be able to come in this time around and see Tosh is being very greedy this game. But I like this from Tosh. I think greed is maybe the bad word. He's just really doing like an economic build. You know, he's not going straight up to 16 farms off the back of a couple tier 1 or something like that. You know, he's building farms. And he's still building units, and he's kind of just progressing in the game. And that last scout from Horus was really important. His economy is a bit behind, but now I'm not as worried. You know, he does get these additional farms up, and yeah, they are a bit behind Tosh's, but it's not the end of the world, and the longer the game goes on, the less and less it's going to matter. And here's the big badger from Tosh. Horus not quite getting that scout, though. And Badger does beat Owl in the Tier 3 Rock, Paper, Scissors, but Horus does have Falcons, does have Snakes, does have Toads. These are all good tools against the Badger. The Toads can help deal with a lot of those ancillary units that are supporting the Badger. And let your Tier 2 get in and deliver the killing blow. So we'll see how this pans out. You know, Horus still has not seen this Badger, but I feel like it wouldn't be unwise for Horus to kind of assume it's on the way, you know? In the last couple matches, Tosh definitely built some early Badgers, and yeah, Horus is trying to play the eco game, getting that third base up to half stat. But I don't know if it's the right call, because Tosh is going to have a very, very strong army knocking on the front door here right when that Badger gets done. I imagine he's going to move out. And that's in about 30 seconds, so less than that even. So maybe like 1 snake will be built by the time the Badger's here. And Horus does have a good bit of Falcons, and 4 Falcons can definitely target down a Badger. But with this many pigeons, with this many supporting units, it's going to be really difficult. Yeah, look at this. I mean, I'd like this on paper, but Horus just does not know Tosh is planning the timing attack. If Horus got that scout in on the tier 3, things would be a bit different. Now, if somehow Horus can hold this off, he's miles ahead in this game. But I think this attack from Tosh is just going to be checkmate. Let's see how it unfolds here. That Badger taking a good amount of damage up front, but so many pigeons here to hold it. And it looks like Tosh's army is starting to slam through, but backs up for now. A lot of core tier 2 still alive here for Horus. And again, if Horus can hold this, if Tosh backs off, then I think Horus actually ends up winning this game. But at the same time, I feel like Tosh has got enough. He's got a big enough power level lead on his army to just slam through and win right here, right now. And yeah, now we can see all the tier 2 is starting to fall for Horus. He's desperately trying to scramble together whatever units he can, but now Tosh is busting through. Gonna knock out that base, re-rally a little bit, get the poison off the Badger, let that thing heal up. Thanks to all those pigeons. and come in here for the killing blow. Now Horus actually has mustered together a reasonable counter army here, but I still feel like Tasha just got too much. Let's see. Yeah, Tosh is going to be able to blast through. And we should see the tap from Horus here shortly. I think Horus played pretty well, you know. Lacked a little bit on scouting this game. The other two games, you know, Tosh really just got in there and dealt too much lizard damage early on for Horus to really be able to do anything here. And that is going to be it. A nice, quick, clean victory going over to the Badgers in the form of Tosh. We are going to keep this Tosh train rolling here with Klaru versus Tosh coming up next. And Klaru is on offense. Tosh is on defense. Klaru probably is playing Hopper. Tosh Archimedes. Let me see what the weight is here for Tosh. 1376. Beautiful. Oh, I should probably reset the scores. I mean, that's a result I'd be happy with as part of Team Fox. But I suppose we should watch the games first. All right, let's keep it kicking here. Game number 1. Spawning in the bottom, fresh off a victory of another series, we've got Tosh playing defense this time around, and his opponent on the aggression, representing the Fox team, Klaru. Ooh, Klaru rocking the mines. Not a unit we've seen a whole lot of lately since the stealth detection was implemented. But I think they can definitely still work, you know. I mean, the stealth detection is definitely a nice feature, but that is not just an end-all, be-all. You know what I mean? Like, you really got to stand still for a significant period of time. I think it's like a second, maybe longer. And I mean, that sounds crazy, but standing still for a second is a pretty big commitment. And you kind of got to, like, mind sweep around, right? Because it only reveals the one adjacent tile. Well, I guess all adjacent tiles, all 8 of them, next to your commander. And the mines are kind of an off-meta unit now, so I really don't think Tosh is going to expect them here. It's something I would more anticipate against Fox players, because a couple well-placed mines will just delete your Fox, but overall, this map looks fine. 3 base for both sides. Hard to say who's really got the advantage. You know, both second bases are up on high grounds here. Quick skunk out of Klaru. Again, another opening that hasn't been very common lately, but since there are no moles, it's harder to punish that sort of thing. And this area right here is really where the vast majority of the engagements are going to be. You know, Klaru's third base is up here nice on this high ground, a little bit of awkward ramping for Tosh to get in there. Meanwhile, Tosh's third base is on the low ground, but it's got a nice little bit of water around it, which can make it difficult to attack into, and also makes it nice to defend, because it's very easy to get your units to take a quick, refreshing dip, heal up a little bit faster. And Tosh does scout the quick tier 2. Meanwhile, Klaru's kind of seeing what Tosh is up to as well. Klaru a bit behind on economy here. No expansion yet. He knows Tosh is expanding. Is he going to get the Gristmill? Is he just looking for that classic, this guy's skunk push here with no moles? Yeah, it looks like Klaru wants to turn on the aggression. I like this a lot, but it is kind of on the verge of all-in. I think I would have liked it better if Klaru took, like, that mill on the way out. You know, that way after the attack he could throw down some farms. But Klaru pushing in hard and heavy. And this kind of one-base attack also is a little bit inhibited by the fact there are no moles. Those moles are a nice way to continue to spend your resources up on the front lines. Ooh, and does Tosh keep these snakes alive? That is huge. 1 HP left on that snake. Oh, but this skunk stays alive as well. So relatively even trade now. Now he gets that snake. Very good for Claro here. But again, Tosh does have that eco advantage. If he keep this farm alive, I feel like that's what Claro really needs to get out of this push. Like, yeah, he's traded pretty well so far. He needs to get this snake. He has killed a Warren. Ideally, he can get the skunk out of here alive. Skunk number 2 is coming in. Ooh, that snake falls. Kalaru's aggression is paying off here. I think what he's really looking for is to finish off that mill. I think that's when he would really want to retreat. But he's going to go back for now, kind of regroup. Now he takes his own mill. So some pretty good trades there for Kalaru, but, you know, this one farm advantage for Tosh is definitely important. But the problem is that Tosh lost a lot more tier 2 there, and he also lost a couple Warrens. But Tosh has a lot of tier 1, and Squizzard does pretty nicely against this. You know, the snakes are kind of fine, but the Squizzard is really good when you can kind of micro your lizards on top of those skunks and try to deal with those. Another snake falling here for Tosh, looking a bit dicey. Kalaru's keeping this aggression up, but he needs to build a farm or two. Yeah, that's perfect. And Kalaru really just wants to keep the pressure on. He doesn't want to let Tosh sit back and farm or build a bunch of tier 2. Some good snake tags there from Tosh, knocking out a skunk. Both snakes still alive here, and this push is pretty easily held here from Tosh. He gets both of his opponents tier 2. He keeps his alive. But luckily for Kalaru, he did invest in those couple farms earlier on, so he's kind of okay. I'm a bit worried about the lizard count here for Tosh, though, because if he throws down a couple extra lizard warrens and starts pushing out, I mean, I feel like the lizards are just great against everything that Kalaru is bringing to the table. But no, I guess he wants to keep his food where it is. He doesn't want to invest in any additional warrens. He wants to let his supplemental income that's raking in be immediately utilized to rebuild the units out of the warrens he already has. And this attack is going very nicely for Tosh here. The snake poison easily gets this mill. And now Kalaru's in hot water. He does keep his skunks alive. You know, this comp in general just feels advantageous for Tosh, you know. Tosh is doing a great job with his snake micro, getting in there, poking and prodding, getting some stacks of poison down, and yeah, Kalaru just realizes, alright man, these skunks are not working out, but maybe a little bit too late. It looks like Tosh is just pushing in for the win, as Kalaru knows it's over and taps out. Game 1 to Tosh. Alright, let's hop right into the next round here. I say that, and then I hesitate before we do it. Okay, spawning on the right, we've got Kalaru. This time around, bringing his own snakes and some MGs. And over on the left, Big Bembatosh. Looks like he's mainly subbed out the lizards for cams. I'm not 100% sure if he had skunks last game. He probably did. Just because skunks are kind of like a no-brainer choice for the badger, you know, since they synergize well with the pigeon. And if you're taking the badger, you're most likely gonna grab those pigeons too. And you know, these MGs, I love them. I'd love to see them work. But the problem is snakes do a really good ferret impression, you know. If you start to try and siege up with those turrets, the snakes can come in and poke them down over time, just like a ferret can. Gotta micro it a little more intensely, but it's fine. Oh, my man Kalaru. Let's see it. Does Tosh scout it? This could be huge. Now, Tosh is probably going to go up on this high ground regardless, even if he's not looking there specifically. Another thing, too, is Tosh hasn't scouted that part of the map yet. So, yeah, he does see this. And Claro even sneaking it out by delaying one farm here. To get in just slightly earlier. Now, Tosh technically saw that MG, but I'm not so sure if he actually did. Now he definitely does. And Tosh is already thinking about plan B. I think this is smart. You know, he's already getting that mill up there. Worst case scenario, if things really start going wrong, he can pack up and go up there. And here we see the snakes, man. And with some decent micro, especially with pigeons. You know, these snakes can make short work of the MGs, but I love this strat from Claro. He's really banking a lot of money. Yeah, there he goes. Gonna go ahead and start spinning that. And Tosh is gonna sit back while this siege, this kind of contain, is still kind of manifesting. You know, Tosh is like, fine, man, I'll just get a little bit of an eco lead. He needs to be careful. These turrets are a bit threatening. Claro actually decides to pull him back a little, though. Maybe he's not going to hard commit as much as he originally thought after he scouted that tier 2. And this makes it a little more difficult to poke those down with the snakes, because these squirrels can contest this a bit better. But the snakes hitting the squirrels is perfectly fine, too. Oh, but here's the snake from Claro. He's going to get the snake tags on his opponent. Does it go down? It does. Unexpected plays here. Tosh did see that tier 2, but probably wasn't anticipating snakes. The pigeons for Tosh are nice, though. Help mitigate that poison. And Tosh taking a quick chance to come up here, throw down an extra farm, get back home. And Claro is slowly starting to creep this contain forward. And Clara's still not aware of this second base from Tosh, but I don't really blame him. He doesn't have much time to really go around and scout about, which is kind of unfortunate for him because he probably thinks that he's got the eco lead and therefore doesn't really need to invest more into economy. Where Tosh actually has the lead by a significant amount because Claro never took that 8th farm on the main base. I mean, if snakes can poison turrets, shouldn't pigeons be able to heal turrets? I'm just saying. I'm just saying, guys. Take a stand. Take a side, chat. But this army value here from Tosh is just out of control. Still attacking into turrets like this is difficult, and it's allowing Claro to hold on. But that last engagement from Tosh was just so good. Claro realizing he's in a bit of a bind here, gonna get more aggressive, gonna come in. But Tosh has so many gosh darn units here. 6 snakes. And this is just too much for Claro. And we'll probably see a tap here shortly as Tosh is beginning to dismantle this siege attack. Tosh getting a little bit more aggressive here. These kind of games are rough, you know. Claro did never see this other base, so he's probably scratching his head like, what the hell is going on? And taps out. And it's typically best practice in these tournament matches for players to not check the replays in between, you know? Because if you check the replay, you leave the lobby. But I guess you can tell from the graph there. Just taking a quick look at that graph, you can see, oh, Tosh had a base somewhere else. Yeah, I'm actually... I don't talk balance very much, but I'm kind of against snake poison on commanders, to be honest. Like, it's rough. I think that's... I try to pride myself on being a very level-headed player, but I think that's one of the ways that frustrates me the most when I lose a match because my commander died in an engagement because of snake poison, you know, because it's really hard to factor that in. Like, I do a pretty good job of, you know, making sure my commander stays alive, you know, run in, take some hits, move back, but all of a sudden you got like 4 or 5 stacks of snake poison on you too, and you just go down. So, there you have it. Alright guys, Klaru needs to win 3 in a row, and Tosh is on match point. Let's see what happens next in game number 3. Spawning on the right, we've got Big Pimpin' Tosh, and his opponent to the left, Klaru. Klaru bringing out the balloons this time. Still wants to do this, like, siege tactic. He's kind of going for that, like, old school defensive Fox Ferret deck, you know. It was a lot more popular in, like, late 2017, early 2018. I used it a lot. Mishi used it a lot. I think commander sniping should be semi-viable, but I just think that snake poison really is rough. I mean, there's so many games you can look at and say, oh, the commander died to snake poison, that's why player B won that engagement when they shouldn't have, or etc. But again, you know, just my take on it. My opinion's not always the best one. And this map looks okay for what Klaru wants to do, right? He's got plenty of mills over here. He can take this into a nice macro game. He's got those falcons to scale later on. Both players have lizards, and there is this kind of cool, like, two-way attack paths. I'm really curious to see which side of the map hosts the most engagements here, because I could kind of see it going either way. But with what Klaru wants to do, you know, maybe he could take this base, for example, start building some balloons over here, really put the pressure on Tosh. But the problem with doing that kind of thing is, since this map does have 2 pretty large avenues of attack, you know, if I'm Tosh in that position, I'm like, fine, man, I'll ignore your balloons and go this way. Nobody tell Delth about the balloon wall. Oh, man. I remember the balloon walls, sir. But balloon wall hasn't been a thing in so long. And it was very oppressive to the meta, you know? I think that's a weird argument, because it's like, everybody agrees that balloon walls were bad, you know what I mean? Nice attempt here from Tosh, but really quick reaction time from Klaru. Manages to save most of that pig, clean up a lot of those lizards. I mean, it does depend, though, a little bit, Tosh, right, with like, the commander taking. Nice attack here from Klaru, by the way. Actually forces Tosh to sell off some of those farms, picks off a Warren. You know, like, what do we mean by commander tanking? Is the commander taking hits when the enemy units were not in range to hit any opposing units? You know what I'm saying? Because then it's not really tanking. Even picks off the mill there. Like, most of the time, commanders take damage when they run in before the rest of their army, right? So if the defending army, in this case, I should say, is attacking the commander, they wouldn't have been attacking anything else. The only time that comes into play is with units like ferrets or fox, I feel like, or even balloon in some certain situation that have a long cooldown on their attacks, right? So I actually always hate it when my fox hits a commander, because then it's like, man, now I gotta wait for the cooldown on the shot. Which in situations like that, I would consider commander tanking to be a factor. Or if a ferret, you know, hurls a cannonball at a commander instead of at a unit. That attack takes so long to recharge. See some ferrets coming out here from Claro. Claro's got a nice lead here. And here's this base, and I think he's looking at this as much as I am, like drooling a little bit to put some balloons there. But again, I'm worried if Claro does overcommit to the siege strategy there, Tosh can just try to run around this way. But that puts it in a base race where Claro probably has the advantage because he's got the mill over here. Like, didn't we weren't skunks patched to, like, not shoot at commanders? Yeah, you can see him not shooting at commanders here. Because that would actually be advantageous for the skunk player, you know, because they would, like, pre-throw down gas. And Tosh is not messing around, man. He's moving in for an attack. Claro's got a lot. He does catch Claro trying to build some farms, trying to build some falcons, does take out this mill here, but that's not a mill that Claro really cares a whole lot about. Let's see if Tosh continues in with some more commitment. Balloon coming up here for Claro. Maybe thinking about a runaround attack with the lizards, but this is rough. I mean, this balloon and these couple kind of supporting tier 2 units here are not going to stop Tosh from marching in. I'd like this a lot better if Claro had some squirrels. Alright, here comes the fox. And it looks like Claro is really prepping for the base race here. You know, investing so much food into all these different mills. He's gonna come in with the ferret poke here. This can be a bit annoying. And with this high ground vision granted by the falcons, could be even better. Ooh, needs to be careful with those skunks there. Skunks do a good job of kind of pushing this back, you know, since that skunk gas does hurt the ferrets a little bit as they're trying to micro out of it. And Tosh is buckling down. He's bracing for impact, building some more tier 1, and here he goes. He's going to try to take this engagement before the balloon gets up. All of the tier 1 from Claro just getting decimated by the skunk gas here. And Tosh is charging in. The fox is bought and paid for, but it's still 40 seconds out. And this mill doing a good job tanking some damage here. And Tosh with a nice victory. But Tosh doesn't have a whole lot of good anti-fox stuff. I mean, he does have snakes and lizards. We don't see any snakes just yet. Tosh is not aware of the fox, and Claro not aware of the badger. But at this phase in the game, you know, we've been on 2 bases for so long, you can kind of expect the tier 3. I mean, you know it's a tier 3 tournament. Yeah, there he goes. Claro gets that good scout in there. Tosh also just scouted the tier 3 of his opponent. Neither player should really be surprised by that. And where this is going to get difficult for Tosh is when he wants to commit to that tier 3rd base, rather. Although I'm not sure if that's the game plan here from Tosh. He's got a nice strike force put together. And he's probably just waiting on this badger before doing a hard commit. Claro going to start racking up some kills with that fox. Nothing too major, but every unit counts. Claro trying to brace for impact here, building up that balloon, but here comes Tosh. That balloon gets ganked immediately. Claro is going to let this mill fall, and he's just going to go ahead and initiate the base race. He looks at that army and says, you know what, I don't think I can beat it. And let's see if this works for Claro. He's only got to take out 2 mills, and he's got so many lizards here. And Tosh has not thought about it quite yet. He never started rebuilding the mill. Now he comes in to do it. Oh my god, this is just GG. That mill is not going to be up in time. Claro utilizing the geography of the map. And taking a cheeky victory here. Fighting back in this series. Putting a point up on the board. So that brings us into match number 4. So on the bottom right, we've got Tosh. His opponent at the top left, Kalaru. Alright, man, the artillery cannon is here. Yeah, I'd say that was a cheeky win. You don't think so? You don't think so? On paper, Tosh was supposed to win that game, I think. But it was good. It was good decision making. I'm not taking it away from you. And Kalaru definitely was setting up for that base trade for a long time. You know, really committing all his tier 1 into lizards. Building all those mills up on the map. Like, he was just waiting, I think, for Tosh to hard commit with his slower units. But now Kalaru's got that arty. Let's see if we get an arty party this game. It's a shame there's no ramp here on this double high ground for Kalaru. That would be absolutely barbaric. No barbed wire here. Perfect plan, Ban. You know, I'll give you that a little bit. It was very clear you were planning for the base race. But it was still a bit cheeky. Yeah, I bring up the banned barbed wire because I think in the modern, you know, I'm no artillery expert. You know, Kalaru definitely is the one I would defer you to for that. But I think, you know, modern artillery strategies really like to utilize the barbed wire because it's so cheap and so powerful. You know, you throw a bunch of barbed wire around, you're building artillery to defend it. I bet Kalaru banned the barbed wire to foil Solomon's plans a little bit. Solomon being a strong player, known to utilize the barbed wire a lot. I think is he rebranding as Tiki Gray now? Is he Tiki now? Tosh scouts this turret. Not going to be happy about that. This is actually really oppressive here. You know, Tosh can sneak out this way. But Kalaru is really trying to contain his opponent. And once he can feel comfortable enough to leapfrog those turrets up a little bit more, it's going to cut off this path here. And here comes the artillery. And I like to sell on the skunk with the artillery. Because you really, you know, once Tosh sees that artillery, he's kind of got to all in on it. You know, once that artillery gets up, it's going to be bad news bears. And just having that additional tier 1 here to help defend it makes it really nice. But Tosh can't contest this, and I don't think he's actually scouted the artillery yet. He does have the snakes, though, and now he sees it, and he's not going to be happy. And the double turrets like this actually makes the snake harass a bit more difficult. You can see that snake going down to like a third of an HP to almost kill that turret. Ooh, I like that one turret over on the side, kind of anticipating this other little attack path that Tosh potentially has. Now the one thing going for Tosh is that this artillery does not quite have the range to just shell down on Tosh's base. It's like just barely out of range. Looks like Kalaru also just wants to keep his eye out on some of these other bases, make sure Tosh doesn't try to sneak one. Both players getting that tier 3. Tosh scouting the fox. I don't think Kalaru has got down in there yet to see that badger. In full saturation on the second base from both sides. The artillery knocking out a snake immediately. And I like this patience from Kalaru. You know, a lesser player, myself included probably, would probably have tried to just really get this defense as close as possible to the front line. But Kalaru's just taking his time. Waiting to get out his fox. Tosh coming in some more to poke. And this might be the stranglehold here. I love this turret on this high ground too. That could actually end up doing a lot of damage. Yeah, if the units get in range, it just barely might not be yet. Now it is actually starting to fire on things. These pigeons really helping out, though. And Tosh actually slams in with the help of this badger. Knocks out that artillery, and now maybe Claro's in hot water. He doesn't have his fox yet. The fox is just now hitting the field. But with so much healing on this pigeon, with so many snakes out, you get one stack of poison on that fox, man. It is dead. Well, not literally, but you know what I mean. The poison slows the fox down, then it's easy to follow up with a little bit of extra damage. And very good job from Tosh, busting on out of this. I don't think Claro's dead yet, but this is a really rough spot. He's desperately building a lot of tier 1. Here comes a follow-up attack, and Claro just does not have enough to defend this here. Tosh has enough supporting units in the form of tier 1 to where this fox is not really getting off the juicy shots it's looking for on the snakes or on the badgers. And this looks like a victory here for Tosh. Claro desperately trying to stay in, but it looks like Tosh has just done too much damage, and GG. Claro's gonna tap out after that fox goes down, and Tosh putting up a really good performance tonight. Winning both his series there. Alright, I've got one more series for you tonight. And that is going to be Melvin versus Jevla. We're a little bit backwards in this replay, unfortunately. Melvin is in the attack spots. Jevla is in the defense spot when it's really the other way around. I believe Jevla starts with a 1-0 lead. Let me double check the matchups page. Yep, 1-0 lead. Melvin's got a weight of 1696. And I did make just a very simple little disclaimer there to let everybody know our interface is a little backwards here. Okay. Jevla coming in hot. Let's see how he does in game number 1. Spawning in the bottom left, we've got Melvin Fro. And up on the top right, Jevla. Probably not saying that right. I'm pronouncing it as if it's J-E-V. Jevla. Jevla. I can't do that. I don't know if that's some Vyushal or some other language, but I am a Southern American, and I'm gonna say Jevla. And I like this map a lot better for Melvin. Well, this is a really weird map, to be honest, because both players do have access to 3 expansions. Jevla starting off on the lower ground, though, is always rough. And this is going to be super tight here. I'm really curious to see which expansions are taken from which players, you know. I think both of them have the capability to take their most aggressive option in these 2 bases, because they are both running defenses here. You know, I could very well see Melvin try to do something like take this base, throw up a balloon, and just lay down the pressure here. So 8 farm doubles from both sides, nothing crazy yet. Melvin, definitely one of those players who kind of shot up real quick, in my opinion, you know. He went from this guy, you know, you'd see around, I'd take some games off him off the ladder, to a very competent, competitive, and high-level player. And, yeah, Jevla's taking the safest base option here. Meanwhile, Melvin's kind of splitting the difference. Going for that, like, mid-base. And Jevla's going to push in for a little bit of poke, but I think actually pulls back a little too much. I mean, no harm, no foul for the most part. I think Melvin wound up with an extra squirrel there. But I think Jevla could have taken that fight and traded at parity at worst, or maybe even advantageous. And Jevla doing a great job so far on scouting. Knows 2 farms on the way for Melvin. Gonna come home at least, throw down 1 additional farm perhaps, and maybe even another? Looks like he accidentally went to the wrong base. Ooh. Melvin knows Jevla's up to something. Because he saw him sell that farm. And technically he did see the building farms as well. But Jevla sells those again. Goes for the double skunks. Wants to get aggressive. Melvin, though, really on top of his scouting, realizes Jevla is going for this. And Melvin is always a very greedy player and has almost fully saturated the second base. Now the problem is, yeah, he sells a little bit of that off. Tries to get his own tier 2. But the problem with this, I feel like, is these skunks are going to take a little while to get out. And that's going to give Melvin an opportunity to hang out with this 1.5 times economy and build up and hold this. You know, I think this would have worked for Jevla if he built those skunk warrens earlier on. But the problem is this economic lead for Melvin is just getting out of control. I like this plan in theory for Jevla, but I think it wasn't quite executed right. I think for this to work, he needed to push out with these skunks like a minute earlier. And does okay so far. These skunk gas getting a lot of value. The snake will be able to come in and clean up this tier 2 though, and there's plenty of reinforcements here for Melvin to push back this follow-up wave. So yeah, now Jevla's in a rough spot. You know, he didn't trade horribly there. You know, he got some work done. But the problem is that Melvin's economy is just so far ahead. And Jevla knows it. Taps out. Map number 1 here going to Melvin. Let's go into game number 2. Spawning on the left-hand side, we've got Melvin... Oh, I'm sorry, Jevla. And his opponent to the right, Melvin Fro. Now, this is a nice big map here, which may lead to a macro game, which will favor Melvin for a variety of reasons. For one, he's got the extra gristmill, and for two, I think his comp just kind of scales better, right? He's got the Falcons here, and I think Badger just outscales Fox in the late game, you know. Fox can definitely do well against Badger in direct engagements, but I think that's more of like a mid-game thing, you know? Like, once that Badger really has a strong front line to just go to town, or, God forbid, you can get out 2 or 3 Badgers, you know, the Fox really can't contest with that. Because the Fox will end up just kind of poking down, like, squirrels and pigeons and stuff, and not getting those big, juicy shots on the Badger. And also, Fox does not scale well in multiples either. You know, getting out 2, 3 Foxes is normally not the best option, because a lot of times the 2 Foxes can hit the same target, and if that's on like a tier 1 or something, it's just wasted. Now, sometimes that does help though. You know, one shot some tier 2 you normally wouldn't, or really DPS down a tier 3. But with the Fox, you know, where you're hoping this goes is like the big first engagements kind of clash, you know, and we get kind of sent back to the Stone Age a little bit. You gotta sell some things off, rebuild what you can. You got this like scrappy army, and now the Fox can kind of like poke and prod at you, you know, while you're trying to rebuild, or pick off some fledgling units here and there. And again, Melvin just skyrocketing ahead with the economy. I think this is very, very correct for this map. I mean, this rush distance is just so huge. So you really can get away with greed that you normally wouldn't. And Jevla, again, is going to try this timing. This time around, he is building the skunks earlier. But again, I'm just not so sure if it's going to work. You know, it would definitely work if Melvin continued to pull the trigger on these farms, but he's not. You know, he's being safe. We might see him throw down like 1 extra farm, but he's building up all this tier 1. He's kind of bracing for the attack here. And again, this is a rough position to be in as Jevla, because if this attack doesn't work, and it needs to do more than just work. Like, you got to get in there and deal some real damage. And if that doesn't happen, Melvin is just so ahead on economy. Here comes Jevla. Moving up on the side. Revealing his commander a little bit early that allows Melvin to get his units into position. Ooh, this one snake getting pretty low pretty quick. This skunk ass is actually doing a really good job here. I like that Jevla tried to punish his greed a lot earlier this time around, keeping that snake alive on 1 HP, and that snake poison does result in a commander kill here, which is going to be very rough for Jevla. Does manage to get a couple pigs, which is kind of the damage he was looking for. And if it wasn't for the snake killing the commander there, you know, that might have actually worked, because Jevla was starting to push through and deal some good damage. But losing the ability to micro his skunks, both of those going down, and all of a sudden Melvin, you know, takes that with flying colors. Sure he loses a couple pigs there, but he's got the economy where he doesn't really care. And this income advantage that Melvin enjoyed throughout the early game, you know, again, if Jevla didn't lose his commander, maybe, just maybe, he could have got the damage in he was looking for. And Jevla knows he is very, very far behind in economy this game. Gonna push in with these squirrels, but, you know, these farms have paid for themselves by now for Melvin. He's got the same amount of squirrels and so much tier 2. Well, not really so much tier 2, but tier 2 as well. You know what I mean. And Jevla has to tap. Melvin up 2-1 here. Let's see if Jevla can take it back in game number 3. Alright, on the bottom, really needing a map here to stay in the series. We've got Jevla. And his opponent up top on match point, Melvin Fro. Flexing in those ferrets this time around. I like both these decks here. Seem pretty sweet. Squizzard is always a lot of fun. Really just has to see how this plays out. And this is a super wonky map for both sides, but heavily favored here for Melvin, unfortunately for Jevla. On the map where he really needed some sort of advantage, or at least even map. He's got this one awkward expansion over here on the low ground. It'll be easy for Melvin to push into. And Melvin does have a little bit of weirdness to his base as well, but he's kind of got like 4 mills here. They're a little bit close enough now. One thing, you know, Jevla does have the lizards, and there are a couple... No, that's actually... I thought these crates, these pesky crates are in the way. This is actually tucked up nice and tight here for Melvin, so Lizard's not going to be able to do any kind of like flanking attacks or run-bys, as there's only one entrance into Melvin's base. And Melvin is probably going to expand over here. And again, there's not even like an attack path this way or anything like that. And here comes Melvin with that, not really a quick expand this time. He went for an 8-farm double into a mill. That is just a very standard economic opening. I love to see Jevla with like a Hail Mary. You know what I mean? Like, take this mill, throw the fox in the corner, cross your fingers, hope Melvin doesn't see it. But Jevla, again, is going to go for this quick tier 2 opening. And let's see if it works out, you know. I think last game he was close. He's tried this every match so far. And the problem, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but, you know, this timing attack's really got to get some damage done when your opponent's got that economic lead. This game, Melvin doesn't have a super crazy economic lead. Only 1 farm so far. Is he going to come home and build some more? Or is he going to be safer, build some lizard, or squirrels rather? He's going to get his tier 2 up and running. I'm not sure if I agree with that, because this attack from Jevla is knocking on his door. So that tier 2 will not be ready in time. Jevla's got the cams here. Needs to make sure he doesn't run his lizards in too far ahead of everything else. And here comes the attacks. These Warrens are doing a really good job tanking. Yeah, Melvin cleans this up, no problem. Loses the Warren, but kills the Chameleon. He's got the second base rolling. Look at this. Just throws down some farms right after that's held off. Yeah, and here's that desperation fox coming out of Melvin, or Jevla, rather. Melvin should be able to get in there and scout that easily, but actually does not this time around. But the problem with this sort of thing, too, is it's not enough to come back from an economic disadvantage. Like, it used to be way back in the day, like, 1 base tier 3 rushes were a thing. I used to do that a lot. And it worked for a while, but then players kind of realized, oh, hey, I can just, like, really saturate up a second base while that tier 3 is building, and then just slam down a lot of tier 1s and have them out in time, you know? Now Melvin is going to see the Fox here. He knows it's coming. It's a little bit late to react. I mean, he's still got about a minute till it's knocking on his front door. I think his move is just a whole lot more squirrels. Yeah, there you go. And you just kind of rely on your superior economy. I call it the Zap Brannigan style. You know, just throw lives at it. Like, it doesn't matter if the Fox is picking off all these squirrels because you're just so far ahead in income, you can afford it. And my fingers are crossed for the Fox player here. You know, I'd love to see him take a win against a strong opponent like Melvin. Of course, I am biased. I am on the Fox team. So I'd love to see some victories here for the Foxers. Oh, these lizards actually going to reveal these cams. One gets poked off immediately. And here we go. Big engagement coming in. The Fox starting to get some damage going on the back line. These skunks getting all that gas down, but all the tier 1 gets melted away for Jebla. And there's nothing here to buffer for Kasha. Now, you know, with some decent micro, this Fox can come in here and start picking off units while you kind of rebuild your army. But the economy is just so strong for Melvin. Like, he just doesn't care, man. He's got so many squirrels. Oh, Melvin's commander goes down, but I don't think it even really matters in this situation. Jevla doing a good job controlling this Fox, getting in as many kills as possible, but the cam trap is real for Melvin, and that's going to be a tap from Jevla. Melvin just really showcasing how to play safe economic openings and just hammer your opponent with superior food counts. Alright guys, short and sweet stream tonight. That is it for me. I think Boomer will be streaming in like an hour if he ended up getting some replays. I'm not 100% sure. But keep your eyes peeled on the Discord. I just wanted to come in and say hi, help out all these streamers and casters with some of the load on these replays here, man. I've been slacking compared to some of these other guys. It's episode 19. I think this is my 3rd one. So, anyways, y'all have a wonderful rest of your evening. Keep your eyes on the Discord. I think Boomer is scheduled to go live in an hour. But again, I think that's a bit dependent on whether or not he got matches, so I'm not 100% sure. Either way, y'all have a good night. I'll see you at Boomer's stream if he is going live. If not, I will see y'all on Friday night. Take care, everybody.